Okay. Good morning, Jane. Good morning, Alex. If you, we just finished doing our opening prostrations. If you can do 3 prostrations at this time, will be very good. So we're using the red Buddha Practice Study Book, the Uncommon Preliminary Practices, the Ngöndro Practices book. Okay, very good. So we'll begin on page 1 with the introduction. So I'll recite and everybody please join and out loud, keep your microphones muted so that we don't feed back on each other. But it's important to recite these out loud. So the introduction. For the benefit of all sentient beings, the most gracious Buddha Shakyamuni spoke the Dharma through the sutras and tantras. The 5 profound paths of Mahamudra and the 6 yogas of Naropa are the essence of the Buddha's teachings, which enable one to attain enlightenment even in one lifetime. However, to practice the path of Mahamudra and the 6 yogas of Naropa, one must be fully convinced of the 4 ways of turning the mind, or the 4 ordinary foundations. The 4 ways of turning the mind are the basis for the successful practice of any of the yanas. Then one practices the 4 extraordinary foundations, or the Vajrayana Ngöndro, to purify the negative karma and obscurations of the mind, speech, and body, and to develop virtues. The great 12th century Tibetan saint, Lord Jigten Sumgun, the second Nagarjuna, said, the Ngöndro is even more important than the higher practices. One must truly understand and practice the simple yet profound foundational teachings before one begins the higher teachings. Does anybody have any questions about the introduction? Does everybody know what all the references are? Okay. Who can tell me what the 5-fold path is? To practice the path of Mahamudra, the 5 profound paths of Mahamudra. I know Debbie knows, but I want to ask if anybody else knows. No? Okay. Matt?
I mean, I know I've had teachings on them and gone over it. I can't off the top of my head.
All right. Well, I encourage you to take notes, and you can use a pencil in your book. Is perfectly fine. But this is the kind of thing that, you should be familiarizing yourself with. So even if you don't know the totality of the meaning, to get familiar with the steps and then fill in the meaning as we proceed with our practices is the way to do it. So the 5-fold path of Mahamudra. Mahamudra is the great position, the great seal, they call it. So it's like the great mind, the mind that has been set in its understanding, in its meditation. It's like the mind of the Buddha, the mind of the bodhisattvas, those who are approaching Buddha consciousness, attain Mahamudra. So there's 5 paths to that, 5 steps to that. So the first one is the accumulation path, where we are accumulating wisdom and compassion. And wisdom and compassion is part of bodhicitta. So bodhicitta is the path of accumulation, loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. So we're learning more about that, and we're accumulating the wisdom and the method. It's another way of saying loving kindness is wisdom, and method is compassion. So that's the first step, is the accumulation, the path of accumulation. Yes, Gary.
Well, my recollection is I've seen several ways of expressing the fivefold path, and maybe I was just confusing. But that isn't what you're talking about. Just it's practice, going through all the practices.
Well, not exactly.
Not exactly.
Not specifically. Let me go through it, and then you can see how it aligns with what you're thinking about.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one is the path of accumulation. The second one is the path of application. Taking that loving kindness and compassion, taking that wisdom and method, and now applying it to ourselves in order that we may be able to achieve Mahamudra, that mind of meditation, that meditation mind, that mind of Buddha, the path of application. So the path of application is the deity yoga. We learn to do that application through the deity yoga practices, where we learn to recognize our true nature as all these Buddhas. So the example we always use is we have this diamond nature that is in our heart center. And this diamond is made up of bodhicitta. That's what the diamond is. But the diamond has many facets to it. And when you pass light through this crystal, through this diamond, that the light comes through and goes out in different directions because of the facets, because of these aspects. These aspects are representative or symbolic of all the different Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that are within our heart center. And each has a name, and each has an activity of bodhicitta. So we accumulate the bodhicitta, then we activate it, we actualize it through the application of becoming these different Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So this is the deity yoga. The yoga means union, that we recognize the union of this within ourselves and so on. So is this making some sense? Okay, so this is the path of application, this diamond nature that we have that is symbolic of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the enlightened ones, that we have within ourselves. It's all within there. It's not out here, it's in here. We're sending it out to all beings. Then the third path is the Guru Yoga, the four Kaya Guru Yoga. The Kayas are the bodies. Kaya, K-A-Y-A, means a body. So there's four bodies, the Dharmakaya, the Sambhogakaya, the Nirmanakaya, and the Swabhavika-kaya. So the Dharmakaya is the absolute nature, the absolute body, the pure body of the Buddha. The Sambhogakaya is the enjoyment body. So another way of saying the Dharmakaya would be the truth body. The Sambhogakaya would be the enjoyment body, the subtle enjoyment body. And that is characterized through all the symbology that is in the brain, the intellectualization of this whole process and so on. Then the third kaya is the Nirmanakaya, is the emanation body, is the actual manifestation of that Dharmakaya that is manifested in a form, a human form most often, that we associate with, in order to be able to bring the teachings to us. Someone that we can talk to, someone that can talk to us, someone that we can feel, someone that can feel us, and so on. Someone who is a human being, but has brought that Dharmakaya, that true nature, with them and is bringing the teachings to us. That's the Nirmanakaya. So we ultimately become the Nirmanakaya. We become that emanation body. We become that Sambhogakaya. We become that enjoyment body through our practices and study. And then we're hearing those practices and study through the Nirmanakaya, through the form body. And then when we reach the Dharmakaya, that is both formless and desireless. So the fourth of the four kayas, Guru Yoga, is the co-emergence of these first three kayas all coming together as one within one's own body, within one's own life, and being able to maintain that in a stable fashion. So in other words, we attain meditation, we attain the level of meditation, we stabilize the meditation, and when we get up off the cushion, we take the meditation with us. We take the results, we take the accumulation, we take the application, and we take the guru with us. So the Guru Yoga means union with the guru. So the guru is the teacher. So the Buddha is referred to as the guru. Vajradhara is referred to as the root guru. And what we find is that the guru is within ourselves, within our heart center. And that we are familiarizing ourselves with this over and over again through our practices, and we begin to recognize that guru within ourselves. So the Guru Yoga, the union with the guru of the four kayas, you see, is the third step of being able to attain Mahamudra. Then the fourth step of the Mahamudra is the Mahamudra meditation practice itself. So at the conclusion, or at the dissolution phase of every one of the practices that we do, the deity yoga practices, there is a dissolving, there is a dissolution of the deity that we have manifested within ourselves, that we become to recognize. And that process leads us to that meditative mind, where we are dissolving all the visualizations, all the symbology, all the meaning. All of that goes away into the absolute nature, and where we become one with that absolute nature. So what all we're doing with the Ngöndro and all these things is developing that process to allow us to really do that. And it's transformative. When you have that experience, you know you have that experience. It is an experience that there's no way to explain it. It is beyond our human ability to be able to explain it. We can experience it, but to articulate it even to ourselves, there's no words that really can do that. We use words to try and do that, but they're all just kind of pointing at it, but it's not really explaining it in its totality. It has to be experienced. So this is the Mahamudra meditation. that experience. And we first get it with a glimpse. It comes like a finger snap, and it goes like a finger snap. And what we're doing through the repeated process of our practices is to make that period of that finger snap last longer, to become broader, to become deeper, to have more understanding about it. So that's what we're trying to do, is to stabilize that Mahamudra meditation state. So that's the fourth of the fivefold path of Mahamudra. The fifth is the realization stage. And what are we realizing? We are realizing that we are part of a continuum. This continuum includes all things. All this phenomenal nature is on that continuum. And we are recognizing that we are either harmonizing with that continuum, or that we are becoming discordant with that continuum. And that what we are trying to do is to become harmonious with that, to be able to sustain that with our own body, speech, and mind, and to be able to radiate that for the benefit of all other beings. So this realization is practiced in the form of dedication. This is why at the conclusion of all the practices that we do, all the studies that we do, there is a dedication prayer. And the meaning of the dedication prayer is that all the merit, all the wisdom, all the skillful means, all the method, everything that I have acquired, I have developed, I have cultivated through this practice, I am dedicating to the enlightenment of all other beings. I'm not holding on to it selfishly. I am part of those other beings. They are part of me. So it's overcoming the ego just by its very nature. The ego gets put aside. The ego is just a function of our body and our intellectual mind. But so this dedication, this realization that we are part of this continuum. So that's the fivefold path of Mahamudra. Does anybody have any questions about that?
That was a really great explanation. Thank you. Yeah, so it's I don't know if I ever really appreciated exactly the structure of it, even though we've talked about it in this way. But yeah, so it's really the structure of all of our sadhanas too are really structured in this fivefold path, like you're referring to.
That's right. And
Yeah.
that's why, and you're recognizing it now because you've been through it several times, and now it's meaning more to you.
Is the realization stage, is that something that, in terms of the fivefold path, is it something that's synonymous with like maybe not in the experience that one's having doing the sadhana, but is it meant to be synonymous with like a stabilized state of Mahamudra or realization of Mahamudra or Buddhahood or something like that? Is that what's meant by the realization stage?
Yeah, it's the connectedness. It's the spirituality of it. It's the seeing that we're not alone, that we're all together. But it's those are just words that we use to try and help us to understand. But we're all part of this other thing, whatever it is, and that we need to harmonize with it. It needs to harmonize with us.
So the general idea of how this is actualized in practice in the tradition is these things the idea is for them to be more or less all practiced simultaneously. The five paths or the five aspects of the path or the five, yeah.
Yes. Well, you go through it sequentially to learn it, to be able to master it, but then ultimately you become the Mahamudra. You become that mind of the Mahamudra.
Yeah.
Lance, thanks for pointing this out. It's Alex.
Yes.
I just want to, like, if we put it in other words, can we say that, like, first four stages is kind of we realizing our true nature, but still for ourselves as kind of individual, we realizing true nature. And
Yes.
then the last stage is when we realizing that also everybody else is just like that, and we are all one.
Correct.
There is no true separation between us and somebody else. So that true nature belongs to everybody, not just us.
Correct. Exactly. So if I become very happy, I can affect your happiness. If I become very sad, I can affect your sadness. And you can affect my sadness and happiness and so on like that. Just by virtue that we are all connected and we have that empathetic joy, of being a human being, of bodhicitta, and that we're all connected in that way. Another example of this is the Shravaka and the Pratyeka Buddha. You've seen in our prayers, we've recited it many times, that the Shravaka is like a human being, a yogi, who goes off into the hermitage and has all these practices, has all this knowledge that they've developed and everything, and they're going to attain enlightenment for themselves, but only for themselves. It is a selfish enlightenment. They have compassion for others' suffering, but they're not offering any method to those beings. They're only interested in their personal enlightenment. At some point, they realize that, hey, I can't be happy, I can't attain enlightenment while there's so much suffering all around me. What can I do to help to bring enlightenment, to bring happiness to those beings? And when they realize that, that's when they come down out of the hermitage. They go into the village and they start to teach. They start to become sharing their experience. That's the realization of the Mahamudra. That I can't do this alone. I have to do this for the benefit of others. If my enlightenment is just my own enlightenment, it's not real enlightenment.
And so Lance, to is it so it's fair to say, 'cause I think this is what the question I'm about to ask now is where I think I got a little bit held up in my understanding in the past. So to reiterate kind of my question I was asking before, so that the fivefold path of Mahamudra, it's not necessarily a sequential. Maybe it plays out that way on some level. So it's not really meant to be a sequential path. It's kind of
Well,
five
it
aspects
it is
of an
sequential.
overall path that's
No, it is
practical.
sequential.
It is sequential. So like,
It's learned as sequential, but then it ultimately becomes practice as being simultaneous.
hmm,
Does that make sense?
it's learned sequential,
Right.
then over some time practiced simultaneously.
Then spontaneously it all becomes one.
Right. So it's not a It's not a matter though of like you have to reach a certain level of accumulation, then you go to, it's not sequential to that degree though, where you have to like qualify for the next level of a path or something. It's
Well,
not,
there's a realization at each part.
okay.
There's a realization at each part. And if you were in a strict retreat, the retreat master would be coming in and visiting with you from time to time and having conversation with you, and he would instruct you as to the next step that you need to engage in. So in other words, you would have to, excuse me, by the conversation that you have, it will indicate to the master what realization you have accomplished. And then he would say, okay, now move on to the next one. You know, so the Ngöndro practice, what we're doing now are the preliminary practices to get into that method of doing that, of sequentially going through a pathway to get to a particular goal. So one of the things we're trying to overcome is our resistance to all this, our saying, oh, that's too difficult. Oh, that takes too much time. Oh, I'm too important. I already know that. All these things that we hold on to that make us resistant to this. So therefore, this is why, there's 100,000 accumulation of the prostrations, for instance. It's through that challenge and meeting that challenge that we're able to break through, we're able to cut through those boundaries that we have put up for ourselves, these artificial boundaries that prevent us from being able to accomplish, becoming the lineage tree, to being the lineage. So this helps us to see how to do that. The next part is the Vajrasattva part, is the purification part. How do we purify all the stains? How do we purify all the things that we've done in the past that we're doing now to avoid doing them in the future is the next part. And then we do 100,000 recitations of the Vajrasattva mantra. And then after that, there's the Guru Yoga part. And after that is, after that is the mandala offering part, then comes the Guru Yoga part. Those are the 4 Ngöndros. I'm not trying to make it more complicated than it needs to be right now. But I'm just pointing out that there is a method to this, and it is a graduated sequential path leads to a spontaneity of the totality of it all simultaneously.
Okay, Lance, and so maybe it helps to clarify. So we not jumping from one thing to another, but we kind of building on top of another.
That's
so we're
correct.
not abandoning previous steps, but we're just building on top and kind of like a tower.
Well, yeah, one
in the end, we have
example that I've
everything.
seen, it's like taking dice, the dice, and stacking them one on top of another.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to make a plug.
Yes.
There are many books on Mahamudra, and they're definitely worth taking a look at. Lance is right in that Mahamudra contains everything else. Buddhism is everything's contained in everything else. And so there are a lot of lamas who have worked to make, clear sense in terms of what Lance said within your own practice. And this is a book it's kind of a thin one by Kenshin Konchak Gyaltsen called, I don't know, Garland of Mahamudra Practices. And I don't remember where, I don't know if I got this online or at Dripping
You can get it
Gum.
at Vajra Publications. You can get it at Vajra Publications, and it is a great book to have. Yes, I mean it's a fundamental book that outlines this graduated path. Is that correct, Debbie?
Yeah, sometimes you're always going to, you do always need to go back to the beginning. You know, and a lot of everyone says, you know, the preliminary practices are more important than the higher ones. And that's accurate, because if you get this right, if you get the Mahamudra perfectly, you are enlightened. And so there's just been a lot of guidance on it. And it draws things in, as Lance is talking. You start with one aspect of it, you know, refuge and bodhicitta, which is the first thing you do. And there's so much that feeds into it. And so as your practice is going along and your theory is going along and you are, you know, looking back and rereading these things, they make sense in other ways.
All right. Well, let's move on. I'd like to get to the 6 yogas of Naropa, but we'll do that next time. Okay? We don't have to do everything all at once. That's why we go around in cycles, right? We go around in circles of teachings. So next time that we meet like this, we'll spend a little bit of time talking about the 6 yogas of Naropa. Any other questions or comments about this, please? Okay. All right, so now we begin with the opening prayers. So here we are setting our motivation to do this practice, to develop our understanding, our intellectualization of this, to understand our connection with our 3 bodies, with our physical body, our intellectual body, and our spiritual body, all for the benefit of the enlightenment of other beings. So this altruistic motivation, the first prayer, is we're doing this for our brotherhood, for our sisterhood. We're doing this for others. This is the very first thing we talk about. And not only is it just for our brotherhood, or is it for our brotherhood and sisterhood, but it is for those who are the most difficult, that are human beings, those who wish us harm, those who want to bring harm to us or to our brothers and sisters. It's easy for us to want good things for our family, for our friends, for those who we think are behaving in a virtuous way. But those who are non-virtuous, that's the challenge. And we need to be able to bring enlightenment to all those beings. So we recite the altruistic motivation and these other prayers. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. Now in Tibet. Bagla dang wa je pe dra no pa je pe ge. Tar pa dang tam she ken pe bar du jo par je pa tam she ki so je pe. Ma nam ka dam yam pe sem chen tam she de wa dang den. Dog now dong drel nur du la na me pa yang dag par zog pe zhang ju brin po she to par ja. Page 3. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In Tibet, Deshe du sang ma ge gi bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Ma she bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Du de ring ne sung te ni ma sang ta sam gi bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. The Long Refuge Prayer. All sentient beings, limitless as the sky, take refuge in the glorious kind Lama Vajradhara, the embodiment of the body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities of the Buddhas of the 10 directions and 3 times, source of the 84,000 categories of the teachings, and Lord of the Sanghas. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Back to page 5. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Now Tibet, starting on page 4. Nam ke ta dam nyam pe sem chen tam she chok chu du som gi de shin sek pa tam she gi ku song tong yon le trin le tam she gi no war gyur pa choki pom po ton chak ka chu ta che jong ne pa pe ge dun tam she gi na da Transcends a wadangur pa je pe pal dan lama dam pa nam la kyab su chi o. Yedam kil gorgi la sok nam la kyab su chi o. Sange chom den de nam la kyab su chi o. Pa pe ge dun nam la kyab su chi o. Pa wo ka jo cho kyung song mei song yes she gi cheng dang dem pa nam la kab su chi o. At this point, I just want to interrupt to give one explanation. This is a refuge prayer. This particular prayer is a refuge prayer. By its title, it's the Long Refuge Prayer. There's a short refuge prayer. There's the prayer of the Bodhisattva vow, and everything is a refuge prayer. When we do these refuge prayers, we're holding the jewel of enlightenment at our heart. This is why we're holding our hands here at our heart, and we're visualizing that this jewel of enlightenment, this diamond, indestructible jewel that is our true nature, we're holding that in our hands. So we can take our thumbs and put them inside the palms of our hand so that we're cupping them. We're not squashing them. We're not holding it tight like this. We're holding this jewel of enlightenment at our heart center. So the heart center is the center. There's this center channel that runs through our body parallel to our spine. And our energy runs up and down through that and goes through the chakras to other parts of our body and so on. But the center of that center channel is at the heart center. So it's invisible to us, but yet we become more and more aware of it the more and more we do these practices. So this is the reason why we are holding our hands at our heart center like this, to remind us all of this, all these prayers, is to develop mindfulness, mindfulness of our spirituality, mindfulness of our connectedness to that continuum that we are all part of. And right now, all around the world, there are hundreds of thousands of people, practitioners, who are doing one of these prayers or one of these mantras, or all simultaneously. They're all opening up that heart center, and we are harmonizing with that. So that's a visualization that we should keep in our mind for our motivation, that when we do this, we are combining, we are mixing, we are developing a union with all these beings all around the world. This is a human endeavor to be able to transcend into our true nature. Okay, so we go to page 7, and page 7 is cultivating the mind of enlightenment. The mind of enlightenment. This is taking the bodhisattva vow. The bodhisattva is the holy enlightened being. Bodhi means enlightenment, sat is a being, and va is a holy being. So sattva is a holy being. So those are Sanskrit words. Bodhisattva is a holy enlightened being, one who is on the path to becoming a Buddha, one who is a human being on the path to become a Buddha. So this is cultivating that mind of enlightenment. And that mind of enlightenment, the 4 immeasurable qualities of that is bodhicitta. So I'm pointing out the connection points between these different prayers and so on that we do, these reminders to develop our mindfulness. So this is a refuge prayer. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. I'm going to stop here just to point this out. It says, the last line on page 7, it says, as previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path. So what that means is, for a Buddha to become a Buddha, it required that they embrace this enlightened mind, that they cultivate this enlightened mind, and that they progress along the human bodhisattva path. No Buddha just spontaneously happened. They worked for it. So that's what we are doing. We are following in that pathway. This is the Dharma path that we are following to do this. It's not to say it's not the only way. Other traditions have other ways. Christianity has its path, Judaism has its path, Hinduism has its path, Islam has its path, Tao Te Ching has its path, Tao has its path. There's different paths, but we're following this Buddhist path because it's very, very articulate and it's very complete in all of its teachings and has great support. This is why we're following this path. So now we recite this prayer in the Tibet. Page 7. Shang Shu Ning. And when we do this, this is a very deliberate sounding prayer. Doesn't have a melody to it, and it's very, very sharp. We are cutting through any misconceptions we have of what it is to have to be on the path to develop an enlightened mind. Shang Shu Ning Por Chi Ki Bar Sangye Nam La Kab Su Chi Chodang Shang Shub Sampa Yi Sok Lang De Shin Kab Su Chi Jitar Nong Gi De Shegi Shang Shub Tuk Ni Ke Padang Shang Shub Sempe La Pala De Tag Rim Shin A Patar De Shin Dro La Pandandu Shang Shub Samni Ke Gi Shing De Shin Du Ni La Pala Rimpa Shindu La Pa Ji O. Page 9, the short refuge prayer. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In Tibet, Sangye Chodang Soki Cho La Shang Zhu Bardu Dagni Kapsu Chi Dagi Jin Soki Pe Sonamgi Drola Penshir Sangye Ju Pasho. The four immeasurables. These are the four vast immeasurable qualities of bodhicitta. Loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Those are the four vast immeasurable qualities of bodhicitta. So you should know that like the back of your hand. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manam kadam yam pesam centam she dewadang dewe gurdang dempa jorchi. Dugnal dang dunal ki gudang drawar jorchi. Dugnal me pe dewadang midra war jorchi. Ne ring jak dang ni dang drawe dang namla ne pa jorchi. Page 11 is the seven-limb prayer, is the summation, the last stanza of the seven-limb prayer. Whatever merit I have gained through prostrations, offerings, confession, rejoicing, requesting, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate. In Tibet, Chagsa Wadang Cho Ching Sapadang, Jesu Yi Rang Kol Shing So Wa Yi. Ke wa jung se da gi ji sag pa, tam she zog pe shang shub shir no. Now we come to the 4 ways of turning the mind to the Dharma, or the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma. These are the 4 common preliminary practices. Precious human life, impermanence, karma, cause and result, and the suffering of samsara. Those are the 4 thoughts that turn our mind to the Dharma. Think about what it is that caused you to want to get involved with understanding the Dharma. Was it because you recognized yourself as having this precious human life and you wanted to find more definition of what that meant? And so we got to the point of Buddhism to be able to learn their explanation of what it is to have this precious human life. Or was it that there was this impermanence, this awareness of impermanence that you had, and the fearfulness or the discomfort, the suffering that it brought to your mind, the anxiety that it brought to your mind? Maybe you went to a funeral, or maybe you started thinking about your impermanence, that you were not going to live forever, and you wanted to find a structure, you wanted to find a system by which this life that we're born into, but then we die into, out of, that, what is this? So this impermanence has been a motivation for us to learn the Dharma, to learn what this pathway is. Maybe it's karma, cause and result. What is karma? Karma has become part of our vernacular, here in the West and so on. We talk about it all the time. Oh, my karma made me do this. My karma made me do that. Karma is a Sanskrit word that literally means action. I created karma because I created action. And that action has a result to it. There was a cause for me to take that action. The cause was some thought that I had rumbling around in my brain that gave me cause to say something or do something with my hands, go something with my legs and my feet to go somewhere or something. So there is a cause to an action, and then there is a result. So when we say karma, it implies the cause and the result. But here we're spelling it out. We're saying karma, cause and result. Or in the proper sequence, it would be cause, karma, and result. So this may have been a motivation why you wanted to understand what the Buddha Dharma is. Because we're doing all these things, we're trying to develop virtue, but we keep doing non-virtuous things and we're not changing. So we need to find a wholesome pathway on which to be able to evaluate our everyday actions. So this does that for us. This helps us to do that. And then the last of the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma is the suffering of samsara. That we live in this world that is full of suffering. Doesn't mean that we don't have moments of happiness, but that happiness quickly seems to evaporate into the cacophony of all this suffering, all this confusion that is going on, whether it's health issues, whether it's political issues, whether it's economic issues, whether it's whether it's food issues, financial issues, family issues, so many different things are knocking us off of our balance of happiness. This is the nature of samsara. This is the ocean of suffering that we are in. And we have to be able to accept that to the point of taking the responsibility that because of our past actions, our past karma and so on, we have been born into this life. But now we also have a way to be able to liberate ourselves from this suffering. It doesn't mean that we're going to change suffering for all beings. We're not going to change samsara, this ocean of suffering, but we are going to be able to liberate from the attachment and the aversions to this suffering. The Buddha saw the suffering of all beings. The Buddha knew all the solution for all beings to overcome their suffering. But the Buddha cannot do it for other beings. What the Buddha taught was his method of being able to overcome, to transcend that aversion and that attachment to the suffering, to samsara. The result of that is nirvana. It's a state of mind, but it's a state of the big mind and the little mind coming into union with each other. The little mind, the intellectual mind, resting in the spiritual mind and not letting all the craziness around us interfere with that union. It's still happening. There's not a lot that we can do about it. The only thing that we can change is ourselves. We can't change the weather, and we can't change each other. We can offer solutions. We can build a house to protect ourselves from the weather, to give ourselves shelter, and we can build a system by which we intellectually, emotionally don't get attached or have aversion. But other people have to build their own shelter. Other people have to build their own protection, their own emotional attachments and aversions away from their suffering. So those are the four thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma. Why are we practicing the Dharma? They are the common preliminary practices. They're common because they are shared by all the different Buddhist traditions, whether it's in India, whether it's in Southeast Asia, whether it's in the Far East, in the Zen tradition, whether it's in Tibet, in the Vajrayana tradition. All the Buddhist traditions share this common preliminary practice. In our practice, in the Vajrayana, in the Tibetan Buddhism, come the four uncommon preliminary practices, which are the Ngöndro practices. And that's what we are learning. That's what this is a part of. So this first set of prayers, pages 11 through 14, are the common preliminaries, so that we get to the uncommon preliminaries, which are the Ngöndro practices, which is the refuge prostrations, the purification, the mandala offering, the accumulation of the mandala offering, and the four guru, and the guru yoga part. So we see that this is part of the sequence. This is part of the structure. So I'm pointing this out to you right now. Hopefully it makes some sense, but if it don't, it will very soon, I'm sure. Okay. So now we go back to page 11 and we start with the four thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma. So this is included to remind ourselves of why we are here, how it is that we got here. So page 12, yes. So the 4 ways of turning the mind. So we recite this. Number 1. Oh, this kind of leisure and endowment is supremely difficult to obtain. When we obtain this body, which is easily lost, do not waste it meaninglessly, but rather use it to attain the ultimate liberation, joyous result. So take a couple of minutes and contemplate the meaning of this. If you've got your other red book handy, the one that is the daily practice and guide book, if you have that handy, and go to page 15 in that book. So if you want to read that at this time, quietly to yourself. We don't have time to go through a whole teaching on this. We will do that another time, but you can at least read this if you're not familiar with this, or if you need to refresh your memory of the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma. So we will we'll do a 3-minute contemplation. Precious human life. The 8 leisures and the 10 endowments. Your mind wanders, just bring it back to the text. Read it. This is a contemplation. You're going through a logic. You're going through the application of how it affects your life. Okay. Go to page 13, the second of the 4 thoughts. Impermanence. The nature of all phenomena is impermanence. Death is a certainty for all who are born. Death can descend any time, like a drop of morning dew on a blade of grass. Quick, it is time to make effort for the essence of the Dharma. So contemplate the meaning of impermanence. You can go to the next page in our prayer book, page 16, and you can read another text on impermanence. Contemplate the meaning of impermanence. Next, we go to page 14, number 3 of the 4 thoughts. This is karma, cause, and result. The fruit of one's positive karma is happiness. The fruit of negative karma is suffering. The inexorable karmic causation is the mode of abiding in all dharmas. Henceforth, practice the Dharma by distinguishing between what should be practiced and what should be given up. So contemplate the meaning of karma, cause, and result. We're in the midst of all this good karma, this bad karma, these good causes, these bad causes, and we have to make choices, but we still have to abide in this dualistic nature. So we have to make choices. Karma, cause, and result. So you can read the other translation of this on page 17. Okay. During any time when we're doing these kinds of practices, it's very practical to take notes. If you're doing a contemplation or a meditation and a thought comes to you that needs some research, needs a little investigation, open up your eyes. Write down on a piece of paper what that is. There's no point in stewing over it. And then you can go back to that concept, that explanation that you need, you can go back to it later. If it's to remind yourself that you have to call somebody, instead of churning around in your head while you're doing your practice, just make a note for yourself. Or if it's something to look up that you don't understand, make a note for yourself. Everything should be relaxed, no anxiety. Whatever you need to do to relieve any stress, confusion, be very practical about it. So now we go to page 15, which is the fourth of the four thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma, which is the suffering of samsara. So we recite, in the three lower realms and in the three higher ones, there is not an instant of absolute happiness. I will avoid the root cause of my samsaric existence and practice the excellent path of peace to enlightenment. So there are three lower realms of human existence. There's human animals, there's human hungry ghosts who are insatiable. greedy beings. There are human hell beings who are suffering the terrible deeds that they did over and over and over again in the hell realm. Those are the three lower realms. The animal realm, who are ignorant, who do not understand why they are here and only operating at their base levels of being an animal human being. The greedy, the insatiable, and then the suffering and death over and over again. The three higher realms is the human realm itself. The desire realm is the God realm, which is very prideful. And then there is the demigod realm that is in conflict with the God realm, because the demigods want to be gods, and they are using the human beings to manipulate them in order to use them as a catapult to make them feel as though that they are worthy of being gods. But they are in total conflict with each other. Those are the three higher realms: the human realm, the demigod realm, or the jealous God realm, and the Deva realm, or the God realm. So even in the three lower realms and even in the three higher ones, there's not an instant of absolute happiness. I will avoid the root cause of my samsaric existence. Why is it that we are here? There's many reasons why we are here, why we were born into this life, and why we continue in this suffering, non-virtuous, unhappy state. Why are we doing it? It doesn't matter at this point. What matters is that there's a way out. And what the way out is the excellent path of peace. So what is the excellent path of peace? And that is the Dharma teachings of how to liberate oneself from the causes of the suffering, further suffering, and to transcend the suffering that we're feeling now. So this is the suffering of samsara. So we recite this, contemplate this, the suffering of samsara. So you can go and read on page 17 the other translation on this. Okay. Any questions or comments on the four thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma? Okay. So now we visualize the protection circle. So page 16, and we're visualizing the 30 dakinis who are standing in a circle, shoulder to shoulder, facing the inside of the circle, which is our heart center. Offering these dakinis are protecting any negativity, non-virtue, unwholesomeness, and penetrating the protection circle. And we recite their names through these syllables. We recite this 3 times. Oma, a, I, o, re, le, o, a, kaka, gaga, na, zaza, na, tata, da, na, tata, da, na, papa, baba, ma, yawalawa, sa, kaha, kriya, soha. Oma, a, I, o, re, le, o, a, kaka, gaga, na, zaza, na, tata, da, na, tata, da, na, papa, baba, ma, yawalawa, sa, kaha, kriya, soha. Oma, a, I, o, re, le, o, a, kaka, gaga, na, zaza, na, tata, da, na, tata, da, na, papa, baba, ma, yawalawa, sa, kaha, kriya, soha. The mantra of interdependent origination, page 17. Om Yadharma, Hetu Pavawa, Hetu Takan Tadagato, Heawa Tatata, Takansa, Yonarada, Ewamwadi, Ma Shamaniye, Soha. Om Yadharma, Hetu Pavawa, Hetu Takan Tadagato, Heawa Tatata, Takansa, Yonarada, Ewamwadi, Ma Shamaniye, Soha. Om Yadharma, Hetu Pavawa, Hetu Takan Tadagato, Heawa Tatata, Takansa, Yodharada, Ewamwadi, Ma Shamaniye, Soha. In English, all phenomena arise from causes. Those causes have been taught by the Tathagata. The cessation too has been proclaimed by the great ascetic, the Shamaniye, so be it. Now the purification, 100-syllable purification mantra of all the things that we bring into this to be purified, put everything on the path. We recite in English 1 time, and then 3 times in the Sanskrit. Om Vajrasattva Samaya, help to, Om Vajrasattva Samaya, help to protect my vow, to purify myself. May you remain firm with me. Grant me the complete satisfaction. Grow with me. Be loving towards me. Grant me the attainments to master the powers beyond body and nature. Show me all the deeds of body, speech, and mind. Make my mind heart good, virtuous, and auspicious. Revel in the bliss of the 4 joys, O Blessed One, who embodies the essence within me. Do not abandon me. Grant me the realization of the indestructible nature. Make me one with you. Thus I signify my unity with non-duality. Ah. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sara Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sitsa Me Sitsan Shriya Kuruhum Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarata Gata Bajra Mame Munsa Bajri Bhava Mahasamaya Satwaha Om Bajra Sattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajra Sattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu me bhava, sara siddhi me prayatsa, sara karma sutsa me, sitsantriya kuruham. Ha 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 ho bhagavan, sara tada gata vajra mame munsa bhajri bhava mahasamaya satwaha. Om Vajra Sattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajra Sattva Tenopa Drista Dredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sara Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsan Shriya Kuruhum. Ha 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 ho Bhagavan. Saratada Gata Bajra Mame Munsa Bajri Bhava Mahasamaya Satwaha. The increasing mantras for the practice. Om Sambar Sambar Bhimanasar Ma Zamba Hung. 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 The English translation: arising from a defiled mind, be reborn into great wisdom. Next. Om Smar Smar Bhimanaskar Maha Zamba Hung Pe. 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 Om Smar Smar Bhimanaskar Ma Zambo Hong Pe. English: arising from defiled lives, remember and purify the flower of wisdom. Next. Om Sambar Sambar Mahazambu Hung Pe. 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 English: arising great holy wisdom, purify this life. Now the mandala purification, the blessing, holding the mala beads with the guru bead in the right hand, winding in the left palm in a clockwise direction, holding the beads, holding the guru bead between our index finger and our middle finger like this. Om Ruchi Ramana Prarataya Hong Pe. 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 The enlightened body, speech, and mind of the precious Dharma protectors, whose mirror-like wisdom is the door to purification. Om Re Padmanarti Shvari Hung. 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 The body, speech, and mind of pure love is ultimate wisdom. Om Ah Hong, 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 Om Ah Hong. Om Ah Hong, 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 Om Ah Hong. Uma, 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 Oma Ahom. Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments? All right, then we'll take a short break. We'll come back in, say, 15 minutes and come back at 10 minutes to the hour. All right. So please try and maintain your mindfulness now. We have developed a purifying state of mind, a motivation of mindfulness for all beings, for the benefit of all beings. Try and not disturb that at all, and then we'll come back and we'll get into the refuge prostration visualization and practice. Thank you. Okay, so thank you all for coming back. Thank you everybody on YouTube. Once again, if anybody needs any of the materials, you're welcome to email us at buddhapracticestudy@gmail.com and let me know what you need. We can discuss it. We can talk on the phone. If you wanted to join us on our Zoom, you're more than welcome to do that. And you can email again for the Zoom information. That'll be fine. So right now, let me see here. I was just getting my computer set up for this next part here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to page 24, and we're going to begin the actual practice of taking refuge. And the way in which we are doing that is reciting the long refuge mantra, while at the same time we are doing prostrations. So we've given an explanation of the meaning of the prostrations. There's not enough time to go in any detail with that right now, but next time we'll have more time and we can do prostrations, and I can recite the meaning of the prostrations while you're doing them. You know, so if you want to undertake and do the Ngöndro practice on your own, that's wonderful. It would be really good to memorize all of this. In the process of doing 100,000 prostrations, you would kind of automatically memorize this. So just remember, the first 10,000 is the most difficult. After that, it becomes pretty easy. So don't lose heart or diligence because the first 10,000 are the most difficult. Just keep on moving, and you will see confidence coming. Okay, so if you've got your lineage tree, so in your booklet that I sent to you, you've got a picture of the lineage tree. Yeah, so this lineage tree should be in front of you as you are doing the prostrations. You should be doing this in front of an altar. If you have an altar with a candle and a water bowl and incense and the lineage tree, at the very least, would be really, really wonderful. An image of the Buddha would be really, really wonderful to have that as a constant mindfulness reminder of why it is that you are doing this. So the lineage tree, I've given explanation of that before in previous YouTube episodes, sessions, so you can go back and you can see that. If you have any questions, we can talk about it either in this kind of a session or we can have a one-on-one conversation. Okay, so if you've got that established, we're going to do the prostrations, but first we need to read the benefits of taking refuge and then carry on with the prayers and instructions. So page 24. If the merit of taking refuge in the triple gem could manifest in form, the whole universe could not contain it. Even though attempting to describe the infinite benefits of practicing refuge is like attempting to empty the ocean with a teaspoon. There are 8 benefits as explained in the Jewel Ornament of Liberation. One becomes a Buddhist. It becomes the basis of all the precepts and vows. It exhausts all previous non-virtuous deeds. It protects one from obstacles created by humans and non-human. One accomplishes all one wishes. One gathers a great amount of merit. One will not fall into the lower realms. One attains Buddhahood swiftly. Refuge practice is the essence of all other practices. Therefore, one always should emphasize this practice. It has inconceivable beneficial effects. Through this practice, one can achieve the fearless state. Okay, so now sit with one pointed mind. Take refuge in the 3 jewels. So the 3 jewels, the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So when we go Om, Ah, Hong, body, speech, and mind, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. So this helps us to recall the 3 jewels, to take refuge in the 3 jewels. So take a moment and stabilize that in your mind. Okay. So now on page 25, we continue. It says, meditate the surroundings as inseparable from a Buddha field. In the space in front of me is a lion throne on which are a lotus, sun, and moon disk seat, in the center of which is the kind root lama in the form of Vajradhara with the 7 characteristics. So all this is taking place on the lineage tree. So here is the lineage tree, and here is Vajradhara in the center. And then this is the Drikungpas. Here is Jigdan Sumgun. Here are the Buddhas. Here are the Prajnamita texts. Here are the Bodhisattvas. And here are the Yidams with Chakrasamvara in the center. And then around here are the Dharmapalas and the 4 Dharma kings. And up here is the blessing lamas, the blessing gurus. Okay, so we go back to the text. So the 7 characteristics are blue in color, 2 arms, holding a vajra and a bell crossed at the heart, and gracefully sitting in the vajra position, adorned by the silken robes and various precious jewel ornaments, and surrounded by the lineage lamas. In front of the lion throne is the Yidam Chakrasamvara, the male and female aspects in union, whose manifestation is simultaneously appearance and emptiness. At the right side of the throne is the assembly of the Buddhas of the 3 times, possessing all the auspicious signs of the Buddha, together with the 1,000 Buddhas of this fortunate kalpa. Behind the throne is the Prajnaparamita, proclaiming the relative and ultimate meaning of the 3 yanas. To the left of the throne is the assembly of the compassionate bodhisattvas, surrounded by the sangha of the 3 yanas. Around the base of the throne are the Dharmapalas, an ocean of guardians gathered like clouds. Any questions? Anybody have any trouble with the visualization? Okay. So now the refuge prayer. Buddhas, Dharma, Sanghas, Yidams, and Dharma protectors, to these supreme objects of refuge, for protection from the hordes of suffering of samsara, we, all migrators, go for refuge until enlightenment is attained. Buddhas, Dharma, Sanghas, Yidams, and Dharma protectors, to these supreme objects of refuge, for protection from the hordes of suffering of samsara, we, all migrators, go for refuge until enlightenment is attained. Sangye chosok yidam chokyong che, kapchog nam la daksog jowakun, si pe jiksog nyam gale kyob chir, Jiangshu mato bardu kapsu chi. I rejoice when all sentient beings are happy and free from the samsaric suffering and swiftly attain ultimate Buddhahood. For this purpose, from now on until I achieve enlightenment, I will follow the path to the ultimate goal. I rejoice when all sentient beings are happy and free from the samsaric suffering and swiftly attain ultimate Buddhahood. For this purpose, from now on until I achieve enlightenment, I will follow the path to the ultimate goal. Chokunde den dognal drawadang, nor du la me topag da gyawe. De chir deng ne changshu ma to bar, ne pe dong chog lam la chog par ja. So now we recite the refuge prayer. We'll recite it 3 times in English and 3 times in the Tibetan, and then we'll do the prostrations while we recite. 3 times in English. Page 30 and 31. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Dren san sa wa danger par je pe pal dan la ma dam pa nam la kap su chi o. Ye dam kil gorgi la sok nam la kap su chi o. Sangye chom den de nam la kap su chi o. Dam pe cho nam la kap su chi o. Pa pe ge du nam la kap su chi o. Pa wo ka jo cho kyung song me song yes she gi chang dang dem pa nam la kap su chi o. Tren san sa wa danger pa je pe pa den la ma dam pa nam la kap su chi o. Yidam kil gorgi la sok nam la kap su chi o. Sangye chom den de nam la kab su chi o. Dam pe cho nam la kab su chi o. Pa pe ge du nam la kab su chi o. Pa wo ka jo cho kyung song me song yes she gi cheng dang dem pa nam la kab su chi o. Transcends wa danger par je pe pao den la ma dam pa nam la kab su chi o. Ye dam kyo gorgi la sok nam la kab su chi o. Sangye chom den de nam la kab su chi o. Dam pe cho nam la kab su chi o. Pa pe ge du nam la kab su chi o. Pa wo ka jo cho kyung song me song yes she gi chang dang dem pa nam la kab su chi o. So now we go and do our prostrations. Recite the mantra if you can. If not, I will continue to recite and you follow along as best you can. Do the prostrations. If you've got something to count the prostrations, I'm going to do 21. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sangha. We take refuge in all the noble Bhaktas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sangha. We take refuge in all the noble Bhaktas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lama. We take refuge in the deities of mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Bhaktas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Junsen Sawa Dan Gurpar, Jepe Pao Den Lama, Dampa Nam La Kap Su Chio, Yadam Kilgore Gila Sok Nam La Kap Su Chio, Sange Chom Den Den Nam La Kap Su Chio, and Pecho Nam La Kap Su Chio, Pepe Ge Du Nam La Kap Su Chio, Pawoka Jo Chokyo Meshon Yasegi, Ding Ding Dempa Nam La Kap Su Chio. Junsen Sawa Dan Gurpar, Jepe Pao Den Lama, Dampa Nam La Kap Su Chio, Yidam Kilgore Gila Sok Nam La Kap Su Chio, Sange Chom Den Den Nam La Kap Su Chio, Tempecho Nam La Kap Su Chio, Pepe Ge Du Nam La Kap Su Chio, Pawoka Jojo Kome, Chong Yashe Gi Chung Den Kempa Nam La Kap Su Chio. Junsen Sawa Dan Gurpar, Jepe Pao Den Lama, Dampa Nam La Kap Su Chio, Yidam Kilgore Gila Sok Nam La Kap Su Chio, Sange Chom Den Den Nam La Kap Su Chio, Tempecho Nam La Kap Su Chio, Pepe Ge Du Nam La Kap Su Chio, Pawoka Jojo Kome, Chong Yashe Gi Chung Den Dempa Nam La Kap Su Chio. Junsen Sawa Dan Gurpar, Jepe Pao Den Lama, Dampa Nam La Kap Su Chio, Yidam Kilgore Gila Sok Nam La Kap Su Chio, Sange Chom Den Den Nam La Kap Su Chio, Tempecho Nam La Kap Su Chio, Pepe Ge Du Nam La Kap Su Chio, Pawoka Jojo Kome, Chong Yashe Gi Chung Den Dempa Nam La Kap Su Chio. Junsen Sawa Dan Gurpar, Jepe Pao Den Lama, Dampa Nam La Kap Su Chio, Yidam Kilgore Gila Sok Nam La Kap Su Chio, Sange Chom Den Den Nam La Kap Su Chio, Tempecho Nam La Kap Su Chio, Pepe que du nam la cap suchi. Pawoka jo chikome, song yasegi, sing dang dang pa nam la cap suchi. Vincent Zawa dang gerbo. Jepe pal dan lama, dam pa nam la cap suchi. Yidam kyo gorgi la song nam la cap suchi. Sangay chom den den nam la cap suchi. Beto nam la cap suchi. Pepe que du nam la cap suchi. Pawoka jo chikome. Song yasegi, sing dang dang pa nam la cap suchi. Vincent Zawa dang gerbo. Jepe pal dan lama. Dam pa nam la cap suchi. Yidam kyo gorgi la song nam la cap suchi. Sangay chom den den nam la cap suchi. Beto nam la cap suchi. Pepe que du nam la cap suchi. Pawoka jo chikome. Song yasegi, sing dang dang pa nam la cap suchi. Zenza wadan grupo. Pepe pal dan lama. Dam pa nam la cap suchi. Yidam kyo gorgi la song nam la cap suchi. Sangay chom den den nam la cap suchi. Beto nam la cap suchi. Pepe que du nam la cap suchi. Pawoka jo chikome. Song yasegi, sing dang dang pa nam la cap suchi. Junsan za wadan gerbo. Jepe pal dan lama. Dam pa nam la cap suchi. Yidam kyo gorgi la song nam la cap suchi. Sangay chom den den nam la cap suchi. Beto nam la cap suchi. Pepe que du nam la cap suchi. Pawoka jo chikome. Song yashegi sing dang dang pa nam la cap suchi. Junsan za wadan gerbo. Jepe pal dan lama. Dam pa nam la cap suchi. Yidam kyo gorgi la song nam la cap suchi. Sangay chom den den nam la cap suchi. Beto nam la cap suchi. Pepe que du nam la cap suchi. Pawoka jo chikome. Song yashegi sing dang dang pa nam la cap suchi. We go for refuge to the glorious Holy Lama, together with the kind root and lineage lamas. We go for refuge to the deities, to the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Junsen za wadan gerbo jepe pal dan lama dam pa nam la cap suchi o yidam kyo gorgi la sok nam la cap suchi o sangay chom den de nam la cap suchi o Dampe cho nam la cap suchi o pepe ge du nam la cap suchi o pawoka cho chukyo mai shong yashegi jeng dan dan ba nam la cap suchi o jun san za wadan gerbo jepe pal dan lama dam pa nam la cap suchi o Yudam kyo gorgi la sok nam la cap suchi o sangay chom den de nam la cap suchi o dampe cho nam la cap suchi o pepe ge du nam la cap suchi o pawoka cho chukyo mai shong yashegi jeng dan dan ba nam la cap suchi o jun san za wadan gerbo jepe pal dan lama dam pa nam la cap suchi o Yudam kyo gorgi la sok nam la cap suchi o sangay chom den de nam la cap suchi o dampe cho nam la cap suchi o pepe ge du nam la cap suchi o pawoka cho chukyo mai shong yashegi jeng dan dan ba nam la cap suchi o jun san za wadan gerbo jepe pal dan lama dam pa nam la cap suchi o yudam kyo gorgi la sok nam la cap suchi o Sangye chom dende nam lai kapsu chiyo, dan pecho nam lai kapsu chiyo, papege du nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa woka chocho kyo me shong ya shegi jeng dan dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, jun san sa wa dan go parje pe bao dan lama dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, yudam kyo gorgi la song nam lai kapsu chiyo, sangye chom dende nam lai kapsu chiyo, dan pecho nam lai kapsu chiyo, papege du nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa woka chocho kyo me shong ya shegi jeng dan dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, jun san sa wa dan go parje pe bao dan lama dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, yudam kyo gorgi la song nam lai kapsu chiyo, sangye chom dende nam lai kapsu chiyo, dan pe chom nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa pe ge du nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa woka chocho kyo me shong ya shegi jeng dan dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, chun san za wa dan go pa je pe bao dan lama dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, yudam kyo gorgi la song nam lai kapsu chiyo, sangye chom dende nam lai kapsu chiyo, dan pe chom nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa pe ge du nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa woka chocho kyo me shong ya shegi jeng dan dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, jun san za wa dan go pa je pe bao dan lama dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, yudam kyo gorgi la song nam lai kapsu chiyo, sangye chom dende nam lai kapsu chiyo, dan pe chom nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa pe ge du nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa woka chocho kyo me shong ya shegi jeng dan dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, jun san sa wa dan go pa je pe bao dan lama dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, yudam kyo gorgi la song nam lai kapsu chiyo, sangye chom dende nam lai kapsu chiyo, dan pe chom nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa pe ge du nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa woka chocho kyo me shong ya shegi jeng dan dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, jun san sa wa dan go pa je pe bao dan lama dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, yudam kyo gorgi la song nam lai kapsu chiyo, sangye chom dende nam lai kapsu chiyo, dan pe chom nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa pe ge du nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa woka chocho kyo me shong ya shegi jeng dan dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, jun san sa wa dan go pa je pe bao dan lama dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, yudam kyo gorgi la song nam lai kapsu chiyo, sangye chom dende nam lai kapsu chiyo, dan pe chom nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa pe ge du nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa woka chocho kyo me shong ya shegi jeng dan dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, jun san sa wa dan go pa je pe bao dan lama dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, yudam kyo gorgi la song nam lai kapsu chiyo, sangye chom dende nam lai kapsu chiyo, dan pe chom nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa pe ge du nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa woka chocho kyo me shong ya shegi jeng dan dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, jun san sa wa dan go pa je pe bao dan lama dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, yudam kyo gorgi la song nam lai kapsu chiyo, sangye chom dende nam lai kapsu chiyo, dan pe chom nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa pe ge du nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa woka chocho kyo me shong ya shegi jeng dan dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, jun san sa wa dan go pa je pe bao dan lama dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, yudam kyo gorgi la song nam lai kapsu chiyo, sangye chom dende nam lai kapsu chiyo, dan pe chom nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa pe ge du nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa woka chocho kyo me shong ya shegi jeng dan dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, jun san sa wa dan go pa je pe bao dan lama dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, yudam kyo gorgi la song nam lai kapsu chiyo, sangye chom dende nam lai kapsu chiyo, dan pe chom nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa pe ge du nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa woka chocho kyo me shong ya shegi jeng dan dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, jun san sa wa dan go pa je pe bao dan lama dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, yudam kyo gorgi la song nam lai kapsu chiyo, sangye chom dende nam lai kapsu chiyo, dan pe chom nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa pe ge du nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa woka chocho kyo me shong ya shegi jeng dan dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, chun san sa wa dan go pa je pe bao dan lama dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, yudam kyo gorgi la song nam lai kapsu chiyo, sangye chom dende nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa pe ge du nam lai kapsu chiyo, pa woka chocho kyo me shong ya shegi jeng dan dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, jun san sa wa dan go pa je pe bao dan lama dan ba nam lai kapsu chiyo, yudam kyo gorgi la song nam lai kapsu chiyo, sangye chom dende nam lai kapsu chiyo, dan pe chom nam lai kapsu chiyo, Pepege do nam like absu chio pa woka jojo go me sung yashegi jing dan dan ba nam like absu chio jin zan za wa dan gerbo jepe bao dan lama dan ba nam like absu chio yidam kyo gorgi la so nam like absu chio sungge chom dan de nam like absu chio dan pejo nam like absu chio Pepege do nam like absu chio pa woka jojo go me sung yashegi jing dan dan ba nam like absu chio jin zan za wa dan gerbo jebe ba dan lama dan ba nam like absu chio yidam kyo gorgi la so nam like absu chio sungge chom dan de nam like absu chio dan pejo nam like absu chio Pepege do nam like absu chio pa woka jojo go me sung yashegi jing dan dan ba nam like absu chio jin zan za wa dan gerbo Jepe bao dan lama dan ba nam like absu chio yidam kyo gorgi la so nam like absu chio sangye chom den de nam like absu chio dan pecho nam like absu chio pepege do nam like absu chio pa woka churcher kyo me shong yashe gi jang dan dan ba nam like absu chio jun san za wa dan ger ba jepe bao dan lama dan ba nam like absu chio yidam kyo gorgi la so nam like absu chio dan pecho nam like absu chio pepege do nam like absu chio pa woka churcher kyo me shong yashe gi jang dan dan ba nam like absu chio. Okay, Matthew, I think we've good job, everybody. Matthew is young and strong. Okay. So now at the bottom of page 31 and moving over to page 32, it says, note, recite the refuge prayer as many times as possible. Meditate that the refuge visualization dissolves into oneself and oneself dissolves into emptiness. Rest in the natural state. So now we recite this prayer on page 32. The objects of refuge dissolve into the main figure, who is Vajradhara. He dissolves into your crown. Jabyor kornam so odang, deyang vudu sune rang la tempagyor. Then dedicate after the objects dissolve from the edge and dissolve into your crown. So sit in the meditation position. Visualize the lineage tree and visualize that all the surrounding lamas, the 37 Drikungpas, all dissolve into light, dissolve into Vajradhara. The Buddhas, 1,000 Buddhas of this glorious Kalpa dissolve into light, dissolve into Vajradhara. The Prajnaparamita texts all dissolve into light, dissolve into Vajradhara. The 8 great bodhisattvas and all the bodhisattvas dissolve into light and dissolve into Vajradhara. Shakrasamvara and the lineage and the Yidam deities dissolve into light, dissolve into Shakrasamvara. And the Dharma protectors dissolve into light, dissolve into Vajradhara. And Vajradhara dissolves into light and dissolves into you through the crown of your head, entering the center channel and resting in the heart center. Visualize that you become the lineage tree. Well, the 5-minute meditation, the solution. If your mind wanders, just bring it back gently to the visualization of the lineage tree, dissolving into Vajradhara, and Vajradhara dissolving into your crown, into your heart center. Take a deep breath through both nostrils. Bring the breath all the way down to the navel. Hold the breath. Exhale through the nostrils, squeezing the abdomen, squeezing all that stale, negative, dark air out. Hold the breath. Breathe in and hold it. Extend the abdomen. Exhale, squeeze the abdomen. Breathe in fresh, clean, pure air. Exhale, stale, negative, dark air. Relax and breathe normal. Open the eyes. And now we visualize the protection circle of the 30 dakinis who are standing shoulder to shoulder, but this time facing outwards, facing the circle outwards, offering protection to any of those who wish to enter into the protection circle, who wish to enter into the heart center, purifying them, offering purification blessings for those beings wishing to come to the heart center. We visualize their names and recite 3 times. Oma, a, I, u, vi, li, o, a, kaka, gagana, zaza, zazana, tata, dadana, tata, dadana, papa, babama, yawalawa, saha, kriya, soha. Oma, a, I, u, vi, li, o, a, kaka, gagana, zaza, zazana, tata, dadana, tata, dadana, papa, babama, yawalawa, kaha, kriya, soha. Om, a, I, u, vi, li, o, kaka, gagana, zaza, zazana, tata, dadana, tata, dadana, papa, babama, yawalawa, kaha, kriya, soha. Om Yadharma Hetu Pavawa Hetu Takan Tadagato Hewa Tatata Takansa Yonarada Evam Mahashamani Soha. Om Yadharma Hetu Pavawa Hetu Takan Tadagato Hewa Tatata Takansa Yonarada Evam Mahashamani Soha. Om Yadharma Hetu Prabhava Hetu Takan Tadagato Hail Watatata Takansa Yanarada Evamwadi Mahashamani Soha. Om Bajra Sattva Samaya Manu Palaya Bajra Sattva Tenopa Justa Jedo Mebawa Suto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Mebawa Anu Raktu Mebawa Sara Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsan Chiya Kuru Hung Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sara Tadagata Bajra Mame Mansa Bajri Baba Mahasamaya Satwaha. Om Bajra Sattva Samaya Manu Palaya Bajra Sattva Tenopa Justa Jedo Mebawa Suto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Mebawa Anu Raktu Mebawa Sara Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsan Shriya Kuru Hung Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sara Tadagata Bajra Mame Mansa Bajri Baba Mahasamaya Satwaha. Om Bajra Sattva Samaya Manu Palaya Bajra Sattva Tenopa Justa Jedo Mebawa Suto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Mebawa Anuraktu me bawa, Sara siddhi me prayatsa, Sara karma sutsa me, Sitsan shriya kuru hung, ha 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 ho, Bhagawan. Sara tada gata, Bajra mame mansa, Bajri baba maha samaya, Satwaha. Tayata, Pensadriva, Avo Bodhanaya Soha. I'm on page 35. Tayata, Pensadriva, Avo Bodhanaya Soha. 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 The English on page 36. This is it. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are the five families in 3 times who have destroyed all defilements, lead to equipoise of the enlightened mind. Next. Om Ru Ru Da Ru Muki Muki Soha. 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 English. The enlightened body, speech, and mind of the peaceful and wrathful deities is the Buddha. Om Dai Dai Bendai Soha. 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 The body, speech, and mind of the Buddha is the cause for enlightenment of all sentient beings. Next. Hanubashabara Hridaya Soha. Om 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 Hanubashabara Hridaya Soha. The bliss and strength in the heart center of the Buddha is equipoise. Om Ah Hong 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 Om 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 Oma 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 Uma 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 At the bottom of page 36 in italics, it says, visualize with faith. The root Lama is present in the sky in front, surrounded by assemblies of Yidam deities and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Okay. So that completes the Ngöndro practice. We still have our lineage dedication to do. Are there any questions or comments? Is this getting easier for you? Is it getting more difficult?
I would say it's getting easier. Yeah,
Yeah.
easier for me over time.
Good. Are the visualizations becoming easier? You know, the prostrations are getting easier too?
Um, yeah, yeah. When I have trouble with the visualization, I tend to just kind of simplify it to the like the root lama in the form of Vajradhara, and then if I'm shakier with it, but then try to keep it and try to keep the spirit of it kind of in my heart of what I'm prostrating to or trying to meld myself with.
Good. Thank you.
I also find if I don't know if this is anyone else's experience, if I get scattered with my attention or feel kind of disconnected for it, if I say it louder, it at least it helps me to kind of dial in more, focus more. Normally I'm kind of saying it a bit under my breath, uh the refuge prayer.
You mean while you're doing the prostrations?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think in time you'll get stronger with that. To do it in a pronounced voice and a powerful voice is really good. I mean, that helps your breathing. That's part of the aerobics of it. Yes, good. Jane, I saw you shaking your head. How about you? You know, you've been doing this for a little bit now, I see, but how's this working for you?
Well, each time it's a little easier and following along is a lot easier now too. So
Okay, getting a
yeah,
little clearer to you, the meanings?
yes, and the flow of it, and yeah,
Very good.
yeah.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Debbie, how about you?
I think keeping, like you're having us emphasize the refuge tree, the lineage, which is good because you have to remember it's not just you in a room, right? You're on a team. You're on
Right.
a team, Dharmakaya, and looking and remembering, all the beings that helped us get here is it's definitely a source of energy when your legs are starting to feel a little crampy.
Good. Alex, you have your camera off. I assume you've been there, I hope. Can you comment how this has been going for you? Have you been able to keep up with this? Okay, well, we'll catch up with Alex later. Gary, how about you?
Well, the prostrations are very demanding for me on some days, but I keep doing them, but I don't do them quite as quickly as you do.
Well, you can hear I'm struggling with it myself.
Well, we're at about the same point on the great wheel of time, so
Yes.
we can have sympathy for each other. But I just do the best I can, and
Well, you don't necessarily need to do the full body prostration. If it's easier for you to do the simple, 5-point prostration, just
sometimes I do that.
okay, good. Okay. Yeah, but it's good to get into a routine of doing them no matter what, whatever way you do it. Well, very good, yes. All right, so now we do the lineage dedication, which begins on page 37. So we're visualizing now the lineage lamas. So just to refresh our memories. So here, excuse me. So here in the in this part of the lineage tree, what might be like the handle are the lineage lamas. This is the blessing. Whoops, these are the blessing lamas here. It's called, and so it's through. It's through Vajradhara, Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma and here they are represented right here in this part of the image right here. It's through their blessing that all this is happening, because they're the ones who have carried on the prayers, who have had the vision to write the prayers and practices and pass them along to all the generations of practitioners who have come. So you can also think about this as a, excuse me, I'm sorry, I meant to show you this. Just one moment. So here you can see that it looks like a bell. Here's the bell, here's the bowl of the bell, and then the handle and so on. So the wisdom significance of this. And the handle is like the Vajra. So in the case of Vajradhara, the lineage Lama, he's got the bell in his left hand like this, and he's got the Vajra in his right hand like that, and they're both at the heart. So the bell represents the feminine wisdom, and the Dorje, or the Vajra, represents the masculine method, skillful means. So the two together bring enlightenment. Wisdom without skillful means doesn't result in enlightenment. If you have skillful means, but no wisdom to guide it, there's no enlightenment. The two together is what is important. So we can visualize when we recite the visualization, we can cross our hands like this at our heart. We may not have the bowl, but we can visualize that we're holding the bell and the dorje at our heart like Vajradhara. So actually becoming these deities is very, very helpful to us. Visualizing this is very, very helpful to us. So don't hesitate to do that. Okay, so now page 37, the lineage dedication in English only. Dorje Chang, Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dormo Gampopa, Pagmadrupa, and Pagmadrupa, Galwa Drikumpa. I'm sorry, I'm looking at two different lines here at the same time. We'll start over again. Dorje Chang, Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dormo Gampopa, Pagmadrupa, and Lord Drikumpa. Please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessings of all the Kagyu Lamas. By this virtue may I achieve the all-knowing state, and may all who travel in the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies, confusion, the cause of suffering. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activities spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. As Manjushri, the warrior, realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all merit for all sentient beings. By the blessing of the Buddha who attained the three kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, by the blessing of the indivisible Sangha order, may the merit I share bear fruit. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate word of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Trikumpa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. The dedication prayer by Lord Jigden Sumgun. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious kind root and lineage lamas, divine assembly of yidams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yogins, Yoginis, and Dakinis dwelling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana, and the innate word of virtue, not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Shravaka or Pratyeka Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors who harm, misleading Mars, and the hordes of demons, experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Trikampa, by the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise even at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo. Om, Ah, Hong. Om, Ah, Hong. Om, Ah, Hong. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones for the benefit of all sentient beings. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,